Hey guys, Mike House here, licensed loan officer with First World Mortgage. Just wanted to drop a quick overview of the CHFA and Time to Own loan programs here in Connecticut. Now, this information is current as of March 30th, 2025. So the basic requirements for getting a CHFA loan is that you are a first-time home buyer. I think most people know about that. But that doesn't mean that you have to never have owned a house. It just means that you have to not have owned a primary residence in the last 3 years. Also, you cannot own any other properties at the time of closing. This doesn't count timeshares, but it does count if you own any investment properties. The typical purchase price limit is about 511,000, which has gone up quite a bit recently, and that is higher in Fairfield County and targeted areas. They will let you borrow up to 5% more than the purchase price, depending on which down payment assistance program that you're using. And the other requirements for CHFA vary based on the loan type, but they also have an income limit that applies to all CHFA loans. Now, in order to qualify with the CHFA income limit, this is no longer a household income limit. This income limit is based on just the borrower's income. So whoever's on the loan, that's whose income you count. They take your year-to-date income, they annualize it over 12 months and see if you qualify. Now, this is based on how many people live in your household. So if there's one or two people, it's 122,000, and three or more people, it's 140,000. Now, these are higher in Fairfield County and targeted areas, just like the purchase price limit and everything else. The Time to Own program. Now, this program has a lot of funding, so it's going to be around for at least another year, year and a half. And it's gotten a lot more popular recently because, I mean, it's basically free money. They're giving you $25,000 with no interest, no payments, and it's forgiven 10% per year until it's fully forgiven. And this money can cover up to 100% of your down payment and closing costs and escrows. In order to get the full 25,000, you have to be under 80% of the area median income, which I'll show you what that is on the next slide. But if you're over 80% of the area median income, but up to 100%, you can get, say, $18,750 still. But you have to be a Connecticut resident for the last 3 years, and your housing debt ratio has to be at least 30% or higher of your gross qualifying income. And this is the only loan program that has a minimum debt ratio. Typically, we want to see that the house is as affordable as possible, but for the Time to Own loan program, they want to make sure that it's at least 30% of your gross monthly income. Now, these are the AMI guidelines for the different counties in Connecticut. As you can see, they're all pretty close to 90,000 or so, higher in Fairfield. But you can be up to 122,000 in Hartford County in order to still get the $18,750. So they are pretty reasonable as far as income limits go. The DAP loan has always been available, and anyone that qualifies for CHFA qualifies for DAP loan. It's very easy. There's no minimum housing ratio. There's no additional income limits like the AMI, but they will only give you now up to 4% of the purchase price with a $15,000 maximum loan amount. And these are 30-year fixed rate loans with a fully amortizing payment, which means they will give you a 5% interest rate and you'll have an additional monthly payment. Whereas the Time to Own loan, you don't have an extra payment. But this is always available, even if you're all the way up to the CHFA income limit. Now, if you're doing a conventional loan with the CHFA program, there's some important things to understand about this. They utilize the HFA program, which is a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac kind of first-time homebuyer program. And this allows them to give you a CHFA loan all the way up to the CHFA income limit for conventional or FHA financing. And some of the requirements for conventional financing is it's 3% minimum down payment. It's always a 30-year loan. They don't allow 15-year loans. And this is new. The multifamily properties, up to 4 units, you can purchase with a conventional CHFA loan with only 5% down. And regardless of which down payment assistance program you're using, you have to come up with 3% of your own funds in order to buy a multifamily house with a conventional loan through this program. But there is no reserve requirements. And that's a lot different than the FHA program, which requires 3 months reserves when buying a 3 or 4 family house. So I've seen a lot of approvals for multifamily houses with no reserves and a very minimal down payment. The maximum seller credit's 3%, unless you're putting down 10% or more, just like a typical conventional loan. CHFA does not allow appraisal waivers. If you're doing a normal conventional loan and you have 10% or more down, sometimes you can get an automated appraisal waiver, but CHFA always wants to have us inspect the property and do a full appraisal. You do get a massively discounted PMI rate if you are under 80% of the AMI. So not only do you get the full 25,000 time to own, but you also get a big discount on your PMI rate. Minimum credit score technically is 620, but usually 680 is needed for automated approval because it is a little bit more strict. We don't currently offer renovation loans with conventional financing through CHFA. But it can be used for condos, which they just have to qualify based on typical conventional financing requirements. So if they qualify for a normal conventional loan, they'll qualify for a CHFA conventional loan. They don't have their own approved list or anything. Variable income you can use after 12 months of receiving it, like tips or commission or anything that varies like that. And then the debt ratio limits are very forgiving. You can have up to a 50% housing ratio and a 50% total debt ratio. And we have seen quite a few approvals pretty close to that. If you are working a second job, you have to be there for at least 12 months. A lot of people think that you have to have a second job for 2 years. That is not true. You can use a second job after 12 months. The property does have to be livable and functional, and that's pretty much the main reason why they're doing the appraisal, besides making sure that the value is there. And self-employment income, you can actually use 1 year of tax returns as long as you've been self-employed for 5 years or more. And that is a great way to use extra income if you're self-employed. Deposits over 50% of your gross monthly income must be sourced, which just means that we have to see that it came from a legitimate source and not like indirectly from the seller or something like that. Now, FHA financing, this always has a 3.5% minimum down payment, just like regular FHA loans. We do offer the renovation loan through the CHFA program with FHA, and there's been a recent update with renovation loans where you can borrow up to $75,000 for repairs, where that number used to be 35,000. And this is because it's the Streamline 203K program, which is the only renovation loan program offered through CHFA. So you can get quite a bit of money for repairs if you use this for a renovation loan option. You want to have a minimum of 580 credit score, but with 10% down and automated approval, you can get an approval up with down to 550 for credit score. The biggest limiting factor with the Connecticut CHFA FHA financing is that they really limit your debt ratios. So you want to make sure that if you're using this loan program, you're definitely under 45% housing and total debt ratios. A typical FHA loan, you can be up to 47 over 57. So this is quite a bit lower than that, which can be a very limiting factor with this type of financing. There are additional appraisal requirements, just like any FHA loan. Exterior chipping and peeling paint exposed, untreated wood, all that has to be scraped and painted. And if there's an 18-inch or more drop, then there has to be a handrail installed. There's got to be a 75-foot minimum from the well to the leaching fields, which seems like a good idea anyway. And for 3 or 4 unit properties, you have to have 3 months reserves, and it has to pass a self-sufficiency test, which with the rates and the prices the way they are, this is actually a problem more often than it used to be. So all that means is that 75% of the market rents of all units has to cover the total mortgage payment. So you want to make sure about that if you're doing this loan program for a 3 or 4 unit property. The monthly mortgage insurance is 0.55%. Unless you're doing 5% or more down, then it's 0.5% of the loan amount per year. So it's not crazy high. It used to be more than that. Um, Upfront mortgage insurance is another drawback for FHA. It doesn't cost you more money out of pocket, but they do roll in 1.75% to your loan amount, which is different than conventional, which does not do that. Um, Second job, it's a lot more strict to use that income without a 2-year uninterrupted history, but school does count. Variable income after 12 months, same as conventional. Maximum seller credit is 6% of the purchase price, regardless of the down payment. And any deposits over 50% of your gross monthly income must be sourced. But keep in mind, CHFA has all these income limits. So if they see a deposit that may be a second job or additional income source, they will still want an explanation for that. And real quickly, VA financing, it's the same as regular veteran loans. There's no down payment required. There's no monthly mortgage insurance. The funding fee is waived if you have 10% or more VA disability rating, but the funding fee is pretty substantial. But you can use this for up to 4 units, and the appraisal requirements are similar to FHA. So this is a better loan option if you are a veteran, simply because there's no monthly mortgage insurance and the no down payment also gives you more options. And this is my contact info and my application link. If you have any further questions about this loan program, please feel free to text, call, email anytime. And again, this is Mike House with First World Mortgage, licensed loan officer. Thanks for watching my video.